Hey everyone, I'm Ari Altman from the Tech Buyers Guru, and I'm here to talk about a new little toy I picked up over Black Friday. Got a really good deal on the Redcat Ground Pounder monster truck. Got the last one that Tower Hobbies had on Thanksgiving Day. It sold out immediately within a couple hours of the coupon going up. This is a truck that's been around a long time. You can still buy it. Tower Hobbies is still sold out after I bought this one. You can get it at Amazon, and that's where I'm going to link to in the video description. This truck is about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old really, so it's not a brand new product. I typically cover brand new products or relatively new products on this channel, but it's still a classic. It's still an interesting truck to get, and I wanted to look into doing some low-cost upgrades and seeing if I could get this up to par. There really aren't a lot of trucks out there like this. Not a lot of companies are in this market. And that's a shame, because this is a ton of fun. Now, before I get into the upgrades I made to this truck, let's show you where the inspiration comes from. And that is from the classic, old school Clodbuster from Tamaya, depending on how you want to pronounce it. It's Japanese, so I really don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, this is an original. I got this way back in the day, not long after it came out. It's well worn. I recently took it out of storage, ran it through its paces. It did not appreciate it. It kept snapping. Suspension broke in multiple places. The gearbox is broken in multiple places. And I decided, you know what? Rather than trying to get this up to snuff and get this working like a modern truck, because it really had some inherent design problems like really slow steering and suspension that basically didn't do anything, I decided, hey, I'd try a new truck, or at least a modern truck. And that's where the Ground Pounder comes in. Now this is the latest version of the Ground Pounder. It has the AMS oil shock therapy body. That's a licensed body in terms of that logo, but the truck itself, the body is just kind of a generic plastic shell, unlike this licensed Chevrolet body. So first thing I was thinking about was what was I going to do about the body. And then there were, of course, the tires. It gets a lot of complaints because there's no foams. They're super soft. Now, there are no foams in the Clodbuster tires either, but the rubber was a bit stiffer, so it didn't just compress at the slightest pressure. Wanted to look into that. I had also heard that you could strip the gears in this, especially if you gave it more power. And, you know, there are a couple other complaints. But there was one thing I knew that perhaps not everybody else knew, which was that this truck was designed by Crawford Performance Engineering, CPE, and in particular, its metal chassis and drivetrain was designed by those folks who were the innovators of the racing chassis designed for the Clodbuster. And so I had actually been investigating buying a Crawford Performance Engineering chassis for this, but decided, well, I'd have to update the electronics, and there were other problems, maybe getting some new shocks. I didn't want to put all that money into it. Anyway, buying this truck with the CPE chassis and everything else that's included was cheaper than just buying a chassis for this truck. And I decided, you know what? Clodbuster, sayonara. Moving on. We're going to try to make this Ground Pounder as great as you once were, and we'll see if that's possible. All right. The first things first, I don't love this body. I think even though these tires are a bit smaller than the Clodbusters, the body is just a little bit too narrow. Okay? So that was one thing I wanted to take care of. I just didn't like the look of it. It kind of looks a little like a pinhead up here. You know, and it slopes up here. It looks like something that belongs on a smaller truck. And I should mention, smaller truck, like this Team Redcat MT10E, is a wonderful, wonderful truck. And you can see how similar this body is. In fact, it's really just a little bit longer, but it's not really any wider. And I thought, you know what? This is not the right body for a car crusher. Look, this is also called a monster truck, and I love this truck. I highly recommend this truck. But it's kind of like a buggy with big tires, and that's cool. It's tons of fun. But there's something different about driving a car crusher. The scale of it, the look of it, the fact that it's not as fast. You can kind of enjoy it. You can drive it as kind of a crawler. You can go trail riding with it. And yes, you can drive this slow, but it doesn't have the same effect as watching a big truck rumbling along on the path, on the street, through the grass. There's just something more fun about watching a big truck like this. So look, I know that trucks like this are a lot of fun. I know people call them monster trucks. I'm not so sure that I call that a monster truck, but it has its place. But this is a monster truck. I wanted a bigger body on it. That was one thing I wanted to do. Next thing out of the box, I realized these shocks were just not dampening anything at all. They were feeling terrible. And first thing I did actually was I actually installed some 1/8 scale buggy shocks from Durtrax. And I realized that they were actually too firm. This truck, because of its suspension design, needs some pretty light springs. And so the real issue came down to the shock oil. And not only is there extremely light shock oil in these shocks out of the box, the shocks were like half full, which makes them basically inoperable in terms of dampeners. So what I did was use some 40 weight Team Associated oil to top them off. I actually, on the front shocks, I think, actually emptied out the stock oil and filled it with 40 weight. That turned out to be a little bit too heavy because I think what's in there initially is like 20 weight or 10 weight. It's really light shock oil. So if you want to do that upgrade yourself, if you want to dump out all the oil and just start fresh and know that you have a uniform oil in there, I'd go with 30 weight. If you want to just top these off, pick up some 40 weight oil, and I'll have links in the description for those two options. And now I just love the way these work. There's nothing wrong with these shocks. People have complained about these online. These are metal body shocks. They're threaded, so they're adjustable. I've seen some people thread these all the way down and get these springs really stiff. That's actually not what you want. It makes it super bouncy and unable to absorb shocks. You got to fill these with good oil, okay? And then you get a lot of travel. It's super smooth. I just love that. Now you can even tell if I go like that, the rear is bouncing back faster than the front, and that's because that front has a pure 40 weight oil in it. That's actually a little slow. You may want it a little bit more active, and so you can see the difference right there. I mean, I can feel it. I hope you can see it. That front is just a little bit slow, particularly when you hit an obstacle. It doesn't react quite as fast as I'd like it to. But anyway, that's easily remedied if I wanted to empty out those and put some 30 weight oil in there. But yes, you got to update that oil. Next thing I thought about was the tires, and this is where things get kind of tricky. Let me pull up one of my Cloudbuster tires, and I'm going to take off one of these tires and show you kind of the problems that you have when you try to retrofit this with some bigger tires. So I'll be back in a second. So I've taken off one of the tires on my Ground Pounder. I've got my Cloudbuster tire here. For scale, you can see it is quite a bit wider. It is a little bit stiffer rubber, so it doesn't compress quite easily. It's a better overall tire. But there is one problem with the Cloudbuster tire, and then it's based on a 2.6-inch rim. And that is a very old school approach to trucks. I think this has a 3.5-inch rim. And the Ground Pounder is designed with steering knuckles that basically would interfere. Okay, so if I tried to put a Cloudbuster tire on here, what happens is you end up hitting, you hit that, I'm going to do a close-up here. What ends up happening is, when I put this on, look at that steering knuckle. Boom. Now, there are a couple solutions to this, and none of them are really ideal. So, Crawford Performance Engineering, which designed this chassis, has an extension bit that you can put on here that extends this out and basically has that wheel out like this. So, to clear that steering knuckle, the truck is out like this. All right. You can also buy rims from J Concepts and Proline that have an offset. 2.6-inch rims still, so they work with Clod style tires, but they're going to be offset like this. And let me go back to the table and show you why I don't like this solution. So I'm going to give you a little demo of what would happen if you actually went with an extender on this axle to be able to fit a 2.6-inch Clod style wheel. So I don't have the extender here, but I know that to clear that steering block, you're going to have it out like that. And if you put that on both sides, you actually extend the width of that truck to 17 inches. All right? And the real problem with that, in addition to it not looking really scaled to me, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, it's going to be hanging off the edge. All right? The edge of your truck, your whole axle is exposed. It doesn't look that scaled to me. I don't really think that that actually is that appealing to have a truck that would be that wide on either end. The other problem is you're going to put tremendous strain on your axles, okay? There are already complaints out there that these break, and you know, they probably do break under abuse, but if you hang a big heavy tire way out on the end of that axle, which you need to do to clear that steering knuckle, you are going to break some axles, okay? And that's going to be your fault. That's not the fault of this truck. So I just don't think that, unless you just want to put it on your shelf and you like that ultra wide look, you can see how much wider it is. Look, it adds like 2 inches. Let's see, it adds about, 2 inches of width on either side of this truck, going from 13 inches, right? This truck is 13 inches wide to 17 inches. If you love that look, go and get yourself some extenders from Crawford Performance Engineering. Go and get yourself some Proline wheels. I think they're called the Destroyer wheels or something for Clod. They have an offset. I think they'll work on here. I haven't tried it because I know what it'll end up looking like, and I'm not interested. Alright, so that didn't work. Sorry, Clod Tire. You were good while you lasted. Alright, the other solution I looked at was going with a Duratrax wheel. This is really a 10 scale monster truck tire on a 2.8-inch rim. And just that amount of extra clearance, going from 2.6 on the Clod wheel to 2.8, allows me to clear that steering knuckle, okay? I can actually mount this on here and run it. But what I'm really interested in is, what if I went to the 8 scale version of this tire? This is a 6-pack tire, and they make with a 3.8-inch wheel, and it's a 6.5-inch high tire. It's like that tall, it's super meaty, 4 inches wide. But here's your problem. It's got the same offset, and it's 4 inches wide, and all that width goes inboard. All right. So then, when you turn your tire, that 4-inch tire is going to get wrapped up in your spring, and it's because it's really not designed for this truck. So because it has the same offset as the 10 scale version of the tire, I already know that, hey, yes, I could use a 12 millimeter to 17 millimeter hex adapter. I could mount an 8 scale tire, but it's not going to have enough offset. It'll clear the steering knuckles, but it won't clear my shocks because it's going to be too far inboard on the truck. It won't give me any extra width. So I have not found a solution for upgrading the tires. Sorry to say, guys, if you were looking for the answers, I don't have them. If you've got the answers, post them down below. For now, I'm sticking with the original Ground Pounder tires, which honestly are fine. Yes, they're a little bit spongy, and I wish they had some foams, but they're decent. I think they look somewhat scale. They've got some. I love these chrome rims. I think that looks great. A lot of the aftermarket stuff is like white, like Clodbuster, or it's gray, like the Proline wheels, and I'm not really into gray. So you know what? These look okay. All right. So the next thing, let's talk about that drivetrain. This thing stunk out of the box. Okay, it's got a 540 can car motor in it. This thing is just severely underpowered. I think it's either 19 or 20 turn. They don't publish stats on it. But this is a car motor that should not be in this truck. And I don't know why Redcat used it. They have other motors in their inventory, I think. This came right out because out of the box, this thing was just stuttering, cogging. I thought it was broken. I thought my speed control wasn't working because it would just kind of lurch. And I knew that's not how a monster truck is supposed to behave. It's supposed to be smooth. It's supposed to be relatively slow, but it's supposed to just have just oodles of torque. And this had anything but that. The other problem was that they saddled this with a 23-tooth pinion on an 81-tooth spur using 48 pitch gears, which was just a big mistake with a truck like this. Look, my RC10T has 48 pitch gears, and it's fine in a lightweight 3-pound two-wheel drive truck. It's terrible in this truck, which is, I don't know, 6 or 7 pounds, 4-wheel drive. 48 pitch is going to get stripped. People complain about it. Here it is. This is the 48 pitch spur gear. It is stripped. And I stripped it when I was doing some experimentation trying to gear down. I used a 19-tooth 48 pitch gear. And actually that was pretty good. But it was actually too small for the truck. You can't actually get it close enough to use such a small gear. So I'm going to actually bring this up close to the camera to show you what I did do. So what I ended up doing here, there you can see this new spur gear. That's a 43-tooth Mod 1 gear, and I've got a Mod 1 pinion in there. It's really hard to see, I know. But this is a relatively easy switch, and it gave me the performance I needed. I also have a Kyosho motor in there that I got out of my parts bin. This is an old motor. It's a 24-turn motor, but it gave me the performance I needed. I think any modern 23-turn motor would be fine. So let's go back to the table to talk about what these parts were. All right, I'm going to give you some part numbers for those parts I just showed you. ECX, that's a Horizon Hobby brand. They've got a pinion package of 9-tooth and 12-tooth. Mod 1 with 3mm shaft, and that's part number ECX 232028. And then, like I said, we got the Redcat Mod 1 gear, part number BS801014. That's what I use in here, and it's perfect. So I've got that 9-tooth gear in here. I'll tell you, that's as small as you could go. I don't think I'm going to strip out here, but I've got that motor all the way over, kind of lodged against the stop points. So, and it's working, but you can't go smaller than 9-tooth. Now there's one more thing that I had to do to upgrade this truck. Well, actually there's two more things, but one more thing in terms of the power, and that was the battery. Now, it's nice that it comes with a battery and a wall charger. I think that's great to get people started. And here's the battery right here. It's a Hexfly brand, which is the Redcat brand, 2100 milliamp hour nickel metal hydride. I don't know, it gave me like 8 minutes of run time. It doesn't have a lot of punch. Basically, this became a sacrificial lamb. I cut the wires off of it and used them to create an adapter. Now I'm going to pop the top off so you can take a look underneath. I created an adapter. This is the standard, I don't know, Redcat proprietary plug, which I wish they wouldn't use, but they do. And I cut this off of the battery and soldered on some Dean's connector right there. You can also buy a generic called the Star connector. Alright, so I made myself an adapter so I could run a whole lot of different batteries, but of course my intention is not to run nickel metal hydride because this speed control can actually run lipo. So what did I put in there? My trusty Genzace 2S lipo. This is actually a 5800 milliamp hour model, but I actually like their 5000 milliamp hours models in terms of price performance. I'm going to link that in the description below. They're under 30 bucks and they are tremendous values. And the fact that I could drop this thing in, or the 5000 milliamp hour version, which is the same size, into this truck is just a huge benefit. Look, it drops right in. That tray fits a 2S perfectly. Okay, those lock on. You can't put a 3S in here, by the way, because it's either going to be too long or too thick. This is exactly the length of the Genzace 2S, which is pretty much a standard 2S. And because I've created myself an adapter, I can plug this thing in. Alright, which I'm going to do right now, because I'm going to show you something in a second. Alright, so the only thing you have to do on the speed control is switch it over to lipo mode with a jumper. That was super simple, and I've not had any problems with overheating. Now, in the end, when I run this vehicle with this 2S pack, and my lower gearing and my 24-turn motor, yes, the top speed is lower than stock. Okay, a little bit, alright, because that stock really was never even able to get up to full speed. The motor was struggling so much, I don't think it was ever topping out. But I didn't put this 2S in here for top speed. I did it for runtime, because I get like 25 minutes, 30 minutes of runtime out of this. And because I have that lower gearing and a higher turn motor, I've just got tons of torque. And I'm going to take this out in a moment to show you this out in the dirt, in the grass, to show you just how well it runs with this setup. Now there was one more thing, and right at the beginning I said, well, I didn't really like the look of this truck body. You know, it seems durable enough. I mean, it's Lexan, pretty thick. I just didn't like the way it looked, so I came up with a solution. Say, welcome back to the Cloudbuster. Alright, so Cloudbuster is back here. I decided, hey, I've got just the body I want to use on a truck, and it's sitting on my old Cloudbuster. The Cloudbuster body, only thing I had to do was I had this real steel tubular bumper. I had to screw that directly in. I drilled some holes, and I had to drill some holes into the side of the Cloudbuster body to match up with these side-mounted posts. The Cloudbuster had kind of an older style top-mount posts, but with these roll cage bodies, you often get your posts out on the side. Now there was just one little problem, which is this roll cage right here interferes, hits kind of the interior side of this back window or back of the frame. flatbed of the truck. So I couldn't quite get that truck body as far forward as I would have liked. Would have loved it like this. Couldn't do that because once you dropped it down, it hit the roll cage. This is as far forward as I could get. All right, so it's not perfect, folks. It's not perfect, but it's pretty cool. I think this looks a lot better, especially from the front. All right, this body's a lot wider. Let's pull up that Redcat body again. The big difference is it just looks beefier. And in the end, it actually meant that I kind of like the look of these tires with that Cloudbuster top on it. I'm going to take this outside, but I'm just going to show you that how this a couple of features. So of course, this has 4-wheel steering, but it's independently adjustable. So out of the box and default, and unfortunately, every time you turn that transmitter on, it defaults to 2-wheel steering. But it also has 4-wheel steering, and you know some people have complained, oh, it's way too fast. You can't actually turn with 4-wheel steering. Well, you know what? The controller is super adjustable, so I have it down to 40% of my dual rate on the dual rate, and it's perfect for this kind of steering. All right, and then if you just wanted to do front wheel steering, you could push it up to 80%. 100% on the dual throw, on the dual rate as just way too fast. So just dial it down. It's really simple. The remote allows you to do it. So that's it. I'm going to take this outside and let you see what this looks like. Pounding some ground as it's designed to do, and to see what that motor upgrade, the battery upgrade, the shock oil upgrade, the body upgrade, and the spur gear and pinion gear upgrade do for this truck to make it a real car crusher. All right, I'll catch you soon.